Pylon listeners, we are back and ready for week 3 of the preseason. We're going to be recapping week 2 of the preseason, talking about what we're looking forward in week 3, the final week of preseason. Please note that. But before we get into all that, let's get around to the rest of the Pylon crew. I'm Big Z representing the Detroit Lions. Let's go around. We got Remy representing the Vikings.
Scroll to the bold purple rain and control. Go Vikes. Good to be back, boys.
Then we got Barney representing the Bears.
The number 1 in the standings, Bears.
Don't get used to that, Barney. And then last but not least, we got Kinger.
Gentlemen, as always, great to be back with you. Go Pack.
Gentlemen, there's a lot to talk about, I think, here in regards to week 2 of the preseason, whether it's guys maybe on the bubble or some notable announcements, I guess, made at some important starting positions. And that's where I want to start. And I want to throw it to you, Barney. First of all, that Bears game against the Bills, as ugly as it could be for a preseason game. But
Talk about
the Bears saw more than enough out of Andy Dalton to name him the starting quarterback for week 1 of the season. So how do you feel about that decision? I think it's expected. Do you think, I guess, first your reaction and then just a follow-up question, do you think he is the starter throughout the entirety of the season? And if not, when does Justin Fields come into play?
Well, I think there was the confirmation or whatever, like all the news outlets were putting out there confirming that Andy Dalton is the starter for game 1. I think that was always expected. With that being said, I would be shocked if Justin Fields is not out there by week 4, ready to take on those vicious Lions of yours. But, right now he's the guy. I think right now at this point in time, Justin Fields is the better quarterback. He's the guy that gives us a better chance to win. But I don't think this really comes down to just Justin Fields. I think Justin Fields is more enough, like he's man enough to be able to hold down his own, even with this shitty line. But I think that's really the only thing that Nagy is really trying to ease him into. Like, I don't think he wants to put our offensive line, which Kinger, you were sending me gifs of Wilkerson just getting absolutely blown over and whatnot. And I mean, if it's like sort of like a safety standpoint, like I understand why he's doing it.
Safety standpoint. I love that. I love that phrase.
Do I love it? I mean, no, but I mean, like I understand it. I think day 1, like I don't know. I mean, I expected this. I'm not really thrown off about it, but I think game 1, who gives us the best chance to win, it's Justin Fields, no doubt about it.
Right. And I love the quote from Andy Dalton. What was it? It was like, Justin Fields will have his time, but it's my time right now.
Exactly.
I saw that all over the place over the weekend. I thought that was a great quote.
Yeah, and you know what? As far as Andy Dalton goes, I mean, it is his spot to lose right now. But he's not really doing much to hold on to it. That his snaps, this game, even he only played I think one or two series the first game, but this game alone, he didn't look too good. The first offense as a whole didn't look too good, but I mean, there wasn't a lot from the Bears team that looked good. I mean, the defense, who usually is people that we can depend on to just play a pretty solid fucking game, they couldn't tackle to save their lives.
Special teams too.
Special teams as well. They had a punt return for a touchdown. It was an ugly game. It's definitely nice to have the ugly game so far in the preseason. I'm sure we will run into our fair share of troubles in the regular season, but I'm not losing too much sleep over this. I don't know. It really was just one of those game tapes you just kind of you throw away and you kind of bust their ass as a coach, at practice.
Gotcha. So let's did you want to add anything else about the Bears, or should we move on?
Yeah. I'll give a shout out. There's just like a few guys that I think did decent. First off, 2 of our rookies this year, Khalil Herbert. He's the running back out of Vatek. He had a nice score, a 13-yard run. He looks like a really good complement to David Montgomery. I kind of look at them both as sort of like the Green Bay's last year backfield. They have Aaron Jones and David Montgomery, which they are shifty. They can be used in third downs, and they're really good receiving. And Jamal Williams and Khalil Herbert, like they're more like just gonna run it down your throat kind of guys. And I liked what I saw from him. Also, I liked Kyrie's Tonga. He was our 7th round pick. I think he's an absolute steal. He was out there because Goldman is out right now, so he's been out there with first team reps, and he was dominating. I mean, he did really, really good actually on the defensive front. Really happy about him. And then the last guy I want to speak to is Rodney Adams. Dude, this guy is fighting for a 53-man roster spot. I think we got to give it to him and just cut Wims right now and cut Riley Ridley right now. Those guys, they're dropping balls left and right. They're missing assignments. Rodney Adams went out there and he had our one receiving touchdown. It was with Andy Dalton, the Red Rifle. It was like an 80-yard touchdown or something like that. But he went over the top, and I want to give him a shout out because he just had his first baby girl. He had his baby girl like 2 or 3 days before the game. And then, he's a guy trying to get a spot, and he ripped off, a great showing. And I hope the guy makes it because he's been doing great in camp. And to me, he plays with a chip on his shoulder. And I think the other guys from the big time schools, they're both from Georgia, Riley Ridley and Javon Wims. I don't know. I don't know if they're just comfortable and complacent, but they're not showing me anything that this guy hasn't. So if it were me, I would make that 4th, 5th, 6th wide receiver, wherever we draw the line at. I'd put Rodney Adams there and take those guys out.
Former Minnesota Viking
And,
Rodney Adams.
I guess what have you seen anything this preseason that's different in terms of offensive, play calling? Are they spreading it out more? Have you seen anything like that, or they just haven't shown anything in the preseason? Just curious if you've seen anything from that standpoint.
Yeah, I think mostly, Nagy always calls it like cookie cutter and stuff like that. Like, I think he's purposely not trying to do, show specific, like all teams are. But at the end of the day, Mitch Trubisky carved us up. And I want to make this point, dude. For some of the guys that we have high hopes for, I think I said on the last podcast that Mitch Trubisky was going to have himself a game because right. I said it once, I'll say it a million times. Sometimes with the Bears, man, our players have their best games when they're wearing different uniforms, like right on up. And it's always at Soldier Field. And it was kind of cool to see Mitch Trubisky go out there and sling the rock. And he did pretty damn well. I think he statistically, I think he had one of his best games ever, in the NFL, and he only did it in 2 quarters or whatever. But to answer your question, I don't think they're doing really too much scheme wise. Nagy's he's still getting in the way of his own self. Like sometimes when he calls a play, it's like, dude, like there was a bad play, and I don't want to kind of describe it, but it was a mix up in the backfield, and it was ugly, but you could just look when Nagy gets cute. It's just like, Jesus Christ, dude, come on, like do something, like stop this shit. But last thing, did you guys see that hit on Fields?
Yes.
Welcome to the NFL,
dude. First off, kind of hilarious after he said the last game that the game was kind of slow to him. Right. I mean, that play, he forgot to pick up or identify the blitz. Right. But at the same point, I don't mean to be like big, pussy out here, but dude, like he's 6'2". Like that dude was headhunting, and he hit him fucking hard. And he hit him straight up, and I don't know. I don't think there's any place in that for a preseason fucking game, especially on, I don't know, a quarterback that's not even the starter. But I wanted to see what you guys thought, because I thought that hit was fucking vicious.
Well, I mean, they did flag it, right, Barney? They did immediately before Fields even hit the ground. They did throw the personal foul or the penalty flag. So for the personal
100%.
foul. So, but I mean, yeah, that just like you said, I actually watched a great breakdown on that the other day by Jeff Schwartz. And they actually went back to some college tape with Fields as well when he was at Ohio State. And there were a few plays specifically in college that he actually got burned and hit basically on the same exact defensive read. So that was obviously he didn't recognize that the blitz was coming, didn't shift the O-line. That's something he's going to have to improve on, but that was pretty nasty for sure. And the O-line, like you already mentioned earlier, I mean, I know you guys are playing without 2 or 3 starters, but it's looking like the Bears O-line is going to be in trouble a little bit here. And so putting Fields out there, obviously I do believe he's your best chance to win. But you don't want him running for his life right away. You got to really assess what's going on out there. So I do think I understand that point that you made at least somewhat.
Yeah, and you know, to kind of give you an update on the offensive line, Jason Peters on our team did not suit up for the game, and then as far as James Daniels is back, and Tremaine Ifedi is back, our right tackle. So now, like this next game, you know what my focus, you know, like I want to see some O-line improve play, because we tried it out, a decimated O-line last week, and it was pretty bad.
Even if those guys are back, Barney, I don't know if it's going to be a great offensive line, but it'll be
like Barney said though. He's just looking for marginal improvement from last year.
Yeah, I'm looking for
much, I don't think
the 20th ranked offensive line. I would be thrilled with. I would be thrilled with the 20th ranked offensive line. Fields could do some damage with that. With the 32nd offensive line, I don't fucking know.
Well, I think Fields gives you the best chance because he can run away the fastest.
That's true. That is a good thing that Justin is mobile.
So let's move this up to Minnesota now, Remy, where you've had some fun quarterback play this preseason in your own right. But what did you see in that second preseason game? Let's start with the optimism first. Anything that gave you some hope coming into the season here?
Yeah, definitely. Kirk Cousins, you know, he only played a couple series, but he was like 5 for 7 with 23 yards. He didn't look bad, and he was the only one who could really do anything. Amir Smith-Marset had 2 returns for like 60 yards, each like 30-yard returns. He is the other day in practice, he was practicing on a different field and caught a touchdown, and then yelled over to the wide receiver coaches and Adam Thielen and Justin Jefferson and made it known that he had just scored. So he's fighting for that wide receiver 3 spot, and he's chippy. And I'm excited. I think this week the Vikings announced that the starters will play, and they will probably, I'm guessing, play the first quarter. So defensively though, this game was insane. Our front defensive line looked great with Michael Pierce and Dalvin Tomlinson finally getting to play with each other, with Danielle Hunter on one side. This defensive line is going to cause problems and really stuff the run game. Troy Dye had a pick and took it all the way to the house, and he is looking to start in place of Anthony Barr week 1 if Anthony is not good to go. Other than that, our quarterbacks, if Kirk gets hurt, we're probably making a trade somewhere. We're calling Denver for Drew Lock or something. But Kellen Mond, just horrible. If I could return this jersey, this jersey, I would. 6 for 12, 61 yards, and the awareness of 0. And Jake Browning too. Like I don't know why Minnesota isn't calling. Go get CJ Beathard from Jacksonville. Go get somebody. Get these 2 idiots out of the quarterback room, because they're doing nothing except embarrassing themselves on national TV. I've seen.
You were just saying so many positive things about Kellen Mond last week too, even though he was
a player of the week.
He was
the player of the week
last week.
And dude, Remy, you got to be in a dark place if you're out there saying Drew Lock. We're gonna trade
Drew Lock. Give me Taylor Heineke back, for God's sake. He played a better.
All right.
Where did Kyle Sloter go? Kyle Sloter was great in the preseason and should have been in our backup, in my opinion. But moving forward, I mean, I can't wait to see Rashad Breeland last game too. I think he locked down Pittman. He was only targeted 3 times and he didn't allow any receptions and had one pass breakup. And but Brashad Breeland looks to lock in that number 2 corner spot next to Pat Peterson, and I can't wait to see this defense in full gear. I think my shit talking will be backed up defensively, but we just gotta hope Kirk stays upright and healthy.
So you guys made a notable signing too, or at least official. I know there was reports out there, but Everson Griffin now officially.
He's back, baby. Sack Daddy is back, and he will not be a starter. He will be a specialty player. I'm guessing sort of like Richardson, Sheldon Richardson, third down pass rusher, except I do not want him on 3rd and 5s because, as I stated in the past to you, Big Z, and in general, offsides, first down. Yeah, he gets to it. He tries to just guess it, but
loves the jump.
You love the voice in the locker room. He's going to be vocal. He still needs to go apologize to Kirk Cousins for the tweets he sent out earlier this year. And once that's restored, I mean that's great. I can't believe we didn't lead off with the sack daddy. He's back, and I think he's ready to just kind of chill out.
Yeah, he was actually a pretty effective pass rusher for the Lions last year. So I'm curious what he can still provide to Minnesota. It'll be interesting to see. Also, Remy, I want to congratulate you as well that, Teddy Bridgewater is a starter still in the NFL. I know you're a big fan of his still.
That's right. Teddy Two Gloves will always have a soft spot in my heart. Go Teddy wherever he goes, except Green Bay.
I don't think you have to worry about that.
Yeah, you got nothing to worry about there. Yep, nothing to worry about, Remy.
Chad Beebe had a couple nice catches for you guys too, right? In the game.
Yeah, he Chad Beebe, he's good, but he's nah.
I'm trying to get some positives out of here. I mean,
there is none. The positives is that we held them to 12 points.
So positives on one side of the ball, not on the offensive side of the ball. So that's what you're getting at here. It sounds like. All right. A lot to look forward to, at least on one side of the ball. Then in Minnesota, a lot to be desired still on the other half. But let's move this over now to Green Bay, Kinger. What is your reaction to week 2? Some good, some bad that you saw going on there.
Well, our 3rd string quarterback could probably be a backup on the Minnesota Vikings. That's for sure. Kurt Benkert came out there and had himself actually a pretty good game, to be honest, from the offensive side of the ball. Was pretty impressed with his poise. Jordan Love didn't play this week with the shoulder injury, projecting him to come back this week versus the Bills. So it was the Kurt Benkert show versus the New York Jets. On the offensive side of the ball, was relatively impressed with what we saw. Only had a couple scoring drives, but Benkert 18 to 25, 150 yards and a touchdown. He had a couple pretty bad plays early in the game where he tripped over the offensive line, but for the most part, he settled in nicely, really made some good throws. And it'll be interesting to see if he ends up making the roster. Historically, the Packers wouldn't keep 3 quarterbacks, but he's shown that he's got a little bit of game. He originally was in Atlanta a few years back, and keeping him on the practice squad isn't necessarily something that Green Bay is going to look to do. So it'll be interesting to see, or they're definitely going to look to do, but who knows if that'll hold up. So it'll be interesting to see if he ends up making a roster. But
they kept 3 last year, right? 3 quarterbacks.
Well,
COVID.
Right, but Love didn't actually Love didn't suit up at all last year.
But he was still on the active roster. Like 53 people are on the active roster, but 53 don't dress on the day of.
I don't know if Love was actually on the active roster last year.
Really?
He might. I'd have to look that up. I don't know. He didn't dress for a single game last year.
I would not be surprised if they kept 3 quarterbacks only because of COVID. If, like, one guy goes out, you need that 3rd guy there. So I think a lot of teams are doing that.
That's true. So we're just going to wait and see if they end up using that. But, I mean, the offensive line looked together. Royce Newman, again, our 4th-round pick out of Ole Miss. He looks like he's going to be a stud and continuing the 4th-round trend that Green Bay has of producing offensive linemen out of that 4th-round draft spot. He's looking like he could be in potential to be the starting right guard or left guard. They had him playing some left guard this week on opening day. Real high poise on him. You guys saw the news today out of Green Bay that they did officially shut down Devin Funchess for the year. He's going to IR. I'm not quite sure the severity of his injury. He missed all of last year because of COVID. The year previously, he broke his collarbone in like week 1 or week 2, so he hasn't really taken an actual snap since 2019. Battled a hamstring injury that happened a few weeks back, and just today I was a little bit shocked to see, but they did throw him on IR. The cuts were this week, so his season's done. And that really did open up a spot or open up a wide receiver spot. And the guy that really played the best from that position this week was Malik Taylor. I don't know if you guys are familiar with him at all, but he played college for Ferris State. I don't even know where Ferris State is, if you guys have any idea.
That's in Minnesota.
It is in Minnesota.
Only because I knew somebody that played football up there.
He's undrafted, but he had himself a pretty good game. I mean, he had 4 catches for 66 yards. He's a big target. He's like 6'1", 220, 225. Really has good special teams promise as well. He looked pretty good. 4 catches, 5 targets. Amari Rodgers played pretty well on the offensive side of the ball as well. And then the last thing on that side I wanted to mention, which if Green Bay hits on this, 7th round draft pick, number 256 this year out of Mississippi State, Kylan Hill. I'm telling you, boys, this kid's a gamer. He's an absolute gamer. I don't know if you remember, but in 2019, he absolutely tore it up for Mississippi State. He was first team All SEC, led him rushing yards, had like almost 1,400 yards and 10 touchdowns. 2020 played 3 games, wasn't off quite to that start, and then ended up shutting down for COVID reasons. To focus on the draft, for him to get picked up again. He scored for his second time in 2 weeks, 2 preseason games. Nice 12-yard touchdown run to the outside this week. And he's the highest graded rookie running back thus far this year, according to PFF in the preseason thus far. Had a Ramondre Stevenson out in New England. This kid looks like he can play. And with LaFleur's offensive scheme, they're going to run a lot of 2-back sets. Obviously, Jones and Dillon are set in the 1-2 spot, but if we can get some production out of this kid this year, he's also got the ability to catch the ball in the backfield. I'm really high on him, and we're going to have hopefully one of the deeper running back rooms in the NFL. So very excited about him. Very happy with what I saw. On the other side of the ball, it was very, let's just say it wasn't necessarily the same. Zach Wilson looked like he was the number 2 pick in the draft this year. Absolutely tore up our secondary. Now, granted, we were with no starters, but Wilson played very well. I think he had 4 series. They scored on 3 of them. He had 2 touchdown passes, and I think they kicked a field goal. He was 9 of 11, 128 yards, 2 touchdowns. Him and Corey Davis had a great connection. Davis was eating us up, and he really did pick us apart. So there's still a lot to be worked on that side of the ball. Out 30-plus players again this week, but there's the front 7 on the defensive line or on the defensive side was still looking good, but we're still trying to shore up that secondary, figure out who's going to play some of these roles outside of our starters.
Interesting. Yeah. Out of curiosity, Corey Davis, do you think he's a viable fantasy option for people?
I mean, I think so. I mean, I don't even know. Davis ended up having he's ran like X amount of routes this year. I want to say he's run, he's catching balls on like 2/3 percentage of his routes run this year. And it seems like him and Wilson do have a pretty good connection thus far. New York really doesn't have any other secondary receiving options right now. I mean, their draft pick from last year, Denzel, or 2 years ago, it might have been last year, 2 years ago, Denzel Mims is nowhere to be found. They've got Braxton Berrios, who's kind of that smaller slot guy, but they really don't have a lot to help. So I see no reason why Corey Davis is not going to handle majority of those targets this year.
Gotcha. And Zach Wilson, do you see the Aaron Rodgers comparisons? I do. I'm curious. I didn't get to watch this game, unfortunately. So
I'd see what people are saying. I mean, Wilson's very poised in the pocket. He's got a rocket arm. They do have their play styles. I mean, if that offensive line for the Jets can give him some time, I think he's an accurate quarterback, and he's shown he can make all the high level throws needed necessary for the NFL. So, I think I rated him. He's going to be the 4th or 5th quarterback. I think I had him this year coming out. And right now, I think he's one of the top 2 highest rated here, if not the highest rated in regards to completion percentage right now.
It's interesting. All like Justin Fields, Wilson, Lawrence, a lot of them had good reviews, I'd say, so far in their camps. Which is not always like Mac Jones, Trey Lance, a lot of positives so far, it seems, which is unusual for so many quarterbacks.
I think there's a chance that we're going to see all 5 rookie quarterbacks starting here by mid-October this year. All 5 of the first round rookie quarterbacks.
Which one do you guys think is the last to start out of the 5? Not the first, but the last.
Trey Lance.
That would be my guess. Is Trey Lance too?
I was going to go with Mac Jones. I think Trey Lance. I think Trey Lance might. I mean, Trey Lance has got it. It seems like.
Yeah, but again, it's preseason, and also I think they drafted him with in mind that they weren't going to start him right away. That's the impression I got. But anyways, just wait, Barney. What do you think?
I think they're all better than the people starting over them, but I'd probably just say just because Nagy's on the hot seat, Trey Lance.
I gotcha. All right, so let's move on to my Detroit Lions here. Some interesting things. Just an atrocious first half against Pittsburgh, about as bad as it could have gone, especially for Penei Sewell, our 7th overall draft pick. He played very bad in this game. He went against Melvin Ingram, the defensive end, and he looked like a rookie against one of the top pass rushers in the NFL. It gives me some concerns about what we're going to see out of him this year. A little more concerns than I had maybe definitely a month ago, where we're gonna see a lot of up and downs out of him. He looks like a guy that's 20 years old and hasn't played football in 2 years sometimes. So that's what the Lions drafted, but I still am very high on his ceiling going forward. But there were some plays on tape where he got tossed around like a rag doll a couple times, just because he was standing up and out of position, and then also looked like a parking cone a couple times, just right around the edge. And it was all Melvin Ingram. Melvin Ingram completely dominated this game in the first half. So that was the first thing that stood out to me in this second preseason game. It was the most notable thing that stood out to me. The next thing, positive. Let's switch it to positive. And Kinger, that's your guy from Purdue, Derek Barnes. He played well. He looks like he should be our starting linebacker. He has had he's had 2
Let's go.
very good preseason games so far. Switching back to negative really quick, our second round draft pick from 2 years ago, Jelani Tavai, which was everybody thought at the time it was, any draft scout at least thought he was picked probably 2 rounds too high. But Matt Patricia loves his fat, big linebackers for some reason. And Tavai, since he's been in the NFL, has not been able to read very well. He cannot cover a running back or tight end to save his life. He dropped 20 pounds this offseason to supposedly pick up some speed and correct these issues, and it's only looked worse this year. He's truly terrible. So the reason I bring that up, I think and I hope he gets cut, but Derek Barnes is everything Jelani Tavai is not in terms of instincts, especially. Derek Barnes has very good instincts. He has the patience to wait for the hole to open up to read and go through it. Tavai kind of just picks one and kind of just leans into the hole. And Derek Barnes, also, he dropped a pick at the goal line, too. I'm a little pissed that he dropped it. But he's in the right spots, and we have been sorely missing a linebacker with those kind of natural instincts. So Derek Barnes receiving a lot of probably the most hype of any rookie outside of maybe Amon-Ra St. Brown. But I would say even more because Amon-Ra St. Brown is like a small piece of the puzzle. Derek Barnes, I think they have big plans for going forward. So I'm very happy with him. We saw Levi Munzarike, our high second-round draft pick in this game, make his first appearance in the preseason. And he looked really explosive. A couple times he played too high and got driven back, but other times he drove them back a few yards. So that looks promising. Lee McNeil has been great all preseason as well, our other big nose tackles. So I like what we're doing on the defensive front. Michael Brockers hasn't played. Aquara limited. Jamie Collins hasn't played yet. Alex Erozione hasn't played yet either. But I really like what we're doing on the defensive front side. It looks like an improvement over last year. It can't be any worse than it was last year from the defensive perspective. So any positives I say is always a good thing. But man, the quarterback battle also interesting. Tim Boyle, the former Packers backup. Did you ever get to see Tim Boyle play, Kinger, even in the preseason?
Yeah, I mean, Tim Boyle can sling the rock. That's for sure.
He can throw it, but not always accurately.
That's fair assessment.
So I'm not sure. I'm not sure who I like better, him or David Blau. Honestly, David Blau continues to seemingly play his way to stay on the roster. He has enough.
Not gonna wow you, but doing enough to hang in there.
Right. He has more. He has a decent amount of mobility too. I think
Definitely.
I think it's a little underrated for his skill set. But he gets the ball a little more in the right spot than Tim Boyle does. But Tim Boyle has the arm that David Blau lacks a little bit for sure, especially on any short routes or stuff like that. But it's just, I don't know if it's just like the receivers or what, but there's just little timing issues that have been happening in these first two preseason games for Tim Boyle. But I think the Lions really like him, and I think they're going to stick with 3 quarterbacks for the COVID reason I mentioned earlier, but also because they probably can't decide who to cut out of these two. They're very even. But yeah, there's a lot of good, a lot of bad going on with the Lions right now. The other notable one I brought up was Will Harris, or wanted to bring up was Will Harris, the safety, 3rd round draft pick, also a couple of years ago under the Patricia era. He looks like he's going to be our starting safety. This is a little bit of this is probably the biggest concerning point on the defense for me is the safety. Him and Tracy Walker, not proven commodities by any means. Will Harris sometimes shows like he belongs, and then sometimes shows like he doesn't belong anywhere in an NFL field anywhere in the United States. So the Jekyll and Hyde act continued in this game as well. And I just want to throw out one more thing. Jack Fox, our punter, he might be the best punter in the NFL. The guy is an absolute beast. This 2 weeks in a row, he's had an over 70-yard punt. The other day in practice, he had an 85-yard punt, I guess. And this time, this was a 70-yard punt that went out of bounds at the 3-yard line. So he should be a front runner or at least a contender for All-Pro punter this year. He's really, really good. The Lions know how to find their special teamers, especially punters, because they punt a lot. And they might be punting a lot this year if the offense continues to look like this. Woo! I had a lot to say there, but I'm pumped about my team. I'm pumped about this season still. It's hard not to get excited. I know the Lions are right now. I think they had like the projections of like the spread for every game. The Lions are underdogs in every game this season. But I just saw a report today at BetMGM said that the Lions are the most bet on team to make the playoffs. So let's go. And guess which team is the bet on the most to miss the playoffs? Can you guys take a guess? It's not in the NFC North.
The Jaguars?
Nope. The Cowboys.
The Bengals.
Nice. I respect that.
So it must just be Cowboys hate driving that bet. But I like the love that the Lions are getting.
It's got to be people think the odds are just too good. They're just throwing Hail Mary bets out there, like trying to, just to see if they can cash big.
That might be the logical one, Kinger. But I'm going to say no. Everybody's just on the Lions bandwagon this season. That's what that report tells me.
I'm sure that's the case, Big Z.
I know. Oh man. So, gentlemen. Week 3 preseason. This is the last week of the preseason. Just really quick. So let's all talk about one thing that we are looking for in week 3 of the preseason as we wrap up. And I think 53-man rosters are due by August 31st. So right after these preseason games end, the coaches will have to make their final decisions. But before we're really quick, Detroit is hosting the Colts. These are all Central Times at 6 o'clock on Friday. Minnesota is traveling to Kansas City at 7 o'clock. That game will be on the NFL Network. Then on Saturday afternoon, Green Bay is playing the fighting preseason Mitch Trubisky's at Buffalo at noon. And then the Bears are traveling to Tennessee for a 6 o'clock game. That's on Saturday as well. And that Green Bay, Minnesota, and Chicago game will all be on the NFL Network. The Lions are the only one that will not be, unfortunately. But that's okay. So, Remy, let's start with you. What are you looking forward what are you looking for here in the third preseason game? Any last battle that needs to be kind of wrapped up here?
Yes, and that is a battle for a damn touchdown. We have yet to score a touchdown, an offensive touchdown in the preseason. We need one touchdown. That's it.
All right.
Just
I
some
like it.
sense
Nice
of
and
hope,
quick.
Remy, on the offensive side of the ball. Is
Give
Kirk
me
going to
one
play?
touchdown. Kirk will play.
Okay.
Barney, Andy Dalton will not be playing, right? Justin Fields is taking the ball right away. So what are you looking for here in this game?
I'm just gonna stop it right there. He's gonna be out there with the ones, or at least most of them. I'm excited to watch him, play with some people that, will be on the team. And just seeing what he can do out there against, this will be also his first look at the ones on defense. So I just want to see how he does, and how comfortable he is, and how well he's at executing.
All right, Kinger, let's go to you, Green Bay.
Yeah, looking to kind of see how the defensive side of the ball is going to shore up. We've got a battle for that 4th or 5th safety spot. We've got our starters in place with Amos, Darnell Savage. Vernon Scott and Henry Black should both make the roster, but we've got 2 undrafted guys, Ennis Gaines out of TCU and Christian Uphoff out of Illinois State. Both guys have shown in flash potential this year. Both look like they can honestly play and potentially do belong in an NFL roster somewhere. We'll wait and see what happens with that. Also, still looking to see improvement on that offensive line, waiting to see kind of who's going to take control of those positions. The Bills have a great defensive front. It's a great opportunity for some of these young guys to go out there and prove that why they're worthy to maybe not be the starters, but, be consistently on that 53-man and be the backups for the year. So tough game up in Buffalo. I'm looking forward to it.
Absolutely. And I'll wrap this up with the Lions, what I'm looking forward here. There's a couple battles that are really interesting at running back. Craig Reynolds, 2 weeks ago was the highest rated PFF running back. And he literally 2 weeks ago met all his teammates in the huddle. This guy came in last second, but he's played really well in the preseason for Lions at running back. But is there enough room for him to make the roster? Unclear with Swift, Jamal Williams, Jamar Jefferson, and our fullback Jason Kabinda. That'll be interesting to see how that plays out. Wide receiver. Former lacrosse player Tom Kennedy. Can he make this roster? He's one of the top 10 leading receiver in terms of yards this preseason. Just a little, every team has that little white slot wide receiver, and Tom Kennedy is trying to take that spot for the Lions this season, it appears. So he's battling. He's been on the practice squad the last couple of years for the Lions. I would be really interested to see if he can make it. Those are 2 of the bigger battles I'm looking for in this one. And actually, I'll just throw in one more. Tight end, our third tight end spot. We have Hawkinson and Fells, but then Elise Mack and Brock Wright, those 2 are battling it out for the third tight end spot. And it's not a clear cut. Brock Wright, you might be familiar, Barney, from Notre Dame. He's played pretty. I think a lot of people weren't expecting him to play pretty good, and he's played his way into at least a question mark to make the roster. It's always hard to judge those Notre Dame tight ends from their tape just because they're not heavily utilized in the passing game necessarily at Notre Dame.
Yeah.
And
especially him, he was tight end too, right?
Right.
But he was, I think, like the second best tight end coming out of of his class coming out into college. So he always had that pedigree, but wasn't really utilized, like you said, at Notre Dame.
Right. And I would actually I would prefer him over Elise Mack. So based on what I've seen, but it's really hard to judge. Especially when you don't get to see these practices or anything. But before we wrap up, gentlemen, I didn't get to talk about it last week, but I want to say I can't believe that Don Mailbag, the longtime long snapper of the Detroit Lions, has been cut. Just RIP to a man with a great career. It's a little concerning, though, that our owner said Don Mailbag is one of the all-time Lions greats. When you have a long snapper being called one of the all-time Lions greats, it's a little concerning about our history. But it fits. It does fit, unfortunately. But, man, the guy turned 40. They had a big locker room celebration, gave him a rocking chair, bunch of, old or, comfy clothes and a big sign and stuff. And then an hour later, he gets cut for the first time in his career. And Dan Campbell, a man full of quotes, called himself an asshole for cutting the guy on his 40th birthday. But, he's 40, and he cannot get down the field anymore. That's the biggest issue. They can find someone else to snap for less than the veteran minimum and save some salary cap space, too. But, man, an 18-year career in the NFL, just snapping the ball between his legs, 15 yards back. Not a bad career.
Not a bad career.
All right. Yep, Barney, you want to throw one more thing?
Yeah, before we do this, this week we did a new segment here on our Instagram page. I put up a mailbag, which a lot of our followers had reached out for a couple questions. So I'm going to throw one question to you guys each. I'm going to start off with Big Z. So forgive me, don't come at me. I know I run the Instagram page, but I don't have your names here right here. So for this one's for Big Z. I know the win column might not be let's see. The win column might not be as good as we'd hope, but how many kneecaps is it going to take for us to call this season a success?
Oh, it's a great question. First of all, I disagree. I think the win column will be a little more favorable than our followers suggesting, perhaps. But man, I'm gonna say at least 3 kneecaps a game. I'm gonna say over under 3 kneecaps a game. If it's under 3 kneecaps, no dice. Over 3 kneecaps, we're winning some ball games.
All right, solid. This one is for Remy. It seems like with Jefferson, Thielen, and Cook, this offense should be hitting on all cylinders. It's explosive. Is it going to be Kirk the reason that we're not able to take advantage and win the division or at least make the playoffs?
No, I think the reason, if you look, we were like, we can put points up. The reason will be because our defense doesn't click, which I don't believe will happen. So history shows this year, since Zimmer's been coach, on the every other year that we lose, we only win 7 games the year before, and then we go and we make the playoffs. So history shows we make the playoffs, and I don't think our offense or Kirk will be the problem, and we will be in the playoffs.
Kinger, this one's for you. With this being probably, allegedly, Rodgers' last year, is it Super Bowl or bust? Is anything under a Super Bowl win, is that a success?
I mean, I think the mindset is definitely Super Bowl or bust, but I don't think you can define the Packers having another successful season on if they win the Super Bowl or not. I think getting to the Super Bowl would be a step up, obviously, from what they've had the last couple of years. So, I mean, I think the mindset is Green Bay is good enough to win the Super Bowl. That's, the expectation is they should hopefully at least get there, but I wouldn't define a successful season solely on them winning it this year.
We cannot wait to look forward to how they lose an NFC Championship game this year, Kinger.
I hope that's not the case. But if we get there again, that's 3 more than, most teams have gotten the last 3 years. That's for sure.
Hey, the Lions only won 1 playoff game in the Super Bowl era. So what am I to say? Barty, you got a question, right, for you?
Yeah. A specific follower reached out and said, Barney, how does it feel to have not won a playoff game since 2011? And to that, I will say, fuck you, respectfully. But thanks for tuning in.
Hey, I wish we won a playoff game since 2011. That'd be nice.
Hey, none of our teams hold the longest playoff drought, though. The Jets are the longest team in the NFL without going to the playoffs. At least none of us hold that title.
Hey, there we go.
Oh, boy. So, okay. Thank you, everybody, for participating in that mailbag. That's awesome. Barney, thank you for
it's a good
reading those out. That's great. Please keep reaching out to us as well with more, questions. Even if we're not answering them on the pod, we'll try to answer them on our social media as well. Like I think someone sent out to us the other day, someone looking through the Detroit Lions or some guy's Detroit Lions man cave, and it was really cool. It got like a bunch of someone sent that over. I was like, oh, it was really sweet. I don't know if I could ever pull that off or if I'd be allowed to, but it was very cool. It was very cool. So thank you for sending that along as well. Greatly appreciated. And so speaking of social media, our Instagram is our